Hey everybody, welcome back into another episode of the Clayton Britt Show. First of all, happy Halloween. I was going to change out of my costume, but then I was like, I got to give the people what they want. And I think most of the reason why you guys are here now is because I have great outfits now that you can see me on camera. So, I am Ferris Bueller. Got the jacket, vest, all that good stuff. We're changing up the show style a little bit. Waiting every 5 weeks to do a recap. There's no way to talk about what I need to talk about in only 20 to 30 minutes, which is why the last couple have been so long. So we're changing it up. I'm just going to focus on kind of my three major headlines from the last couple weeks, and we'll go a little bit more in depth on those three topics. And then, so we're going to try it up, see how it works. Also, quick couple show notes here while we're at it. One, new logo. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that. Hope you guys like it. We're trying to slowly up the production level. Also, apologize for the glare on the last video. When putting it in Adobe Premiere, we figured out some issues. We know what we're doing wrong. I'm now landscape, so hopefully it will look better and there will be no color issues. But it will be a constant process to kind of up the quality of this. So we're working overtime to make sure this is as good of a podcast as you'll find out there. Okay, now to the main business. So the three topics today are who's actually the best in the NFL between the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills. The next topic we're going to be talking about is the battle of the 3 and 5s, or you could call them the underperformers, or you could call them great quarterbacks, but you'll see the caveat there. And then we'll talk about the NFC West, because I think that division is just fascinating. So I say we start with who's the best in the NFL, because that's what everybody wants to know, who's the best. So between the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills, all of them have pretty similar records. I think Chiefs have 2 losses, Bills have 1 loss, and Eagles have none. But I think those three have kind of separated themselves as the best teams in the league. So for the Eagles, when new teams come around without necessarily generationally talented quarterback, I'm very hesitant because success only lasts so long. I care about this year, but I also care about not just the playoff, or not just the regular season, but the playoffs. And also, are you going to be able to repeat it next year because you have the talent and you've actually built out a roster? Because 1 year of success is great, but the Rams aren't actually in a great spot right now after winning the Super Bowl last year. So will the success be sustained? So I've been very dubious of the Eagles, especially given their weak schedule, but they have been checking all of the boxes for me of doing all the things that a great team needs to do. First of all, this coming as a Patriots fan, this is one that's very important to me. If you're a great team, you beat the teams that you are supposed to beat. There's no, they snuck up on us or we weren't ready. You should, if you're going to lose, you're going to lose to a team that's of your caliber that outplayed you that day, any given Sunday. But when you're a great team, you don't let these bad teams, maybe they can make it a close game, but you beat the bad teams handedly. There's no surprise losses from bad teams when you have a great team. And the Eagles have continued to do that and steamrolled their opponents. So credit to the Eagles. I mean, 35-13, putting up 35 points against Pittsburgh, which probably could have been more had they really kept pressing. That really impressed me. And 26 against Dallas is also proving to be a more and more kind of impressive feat because the Dallas defense is legit, which I also don't necessarily like to admit. So they beat the bad teams, which is great, and they beat them handedly. So that is really important to me. I have been incredibly impressed with the defense. The defensive line has been really strong. The secondary is as good as any. Big play Slay, Darius Slay. He's been excellent locking these guys up on the outside. A couple interceptions. So credit to the Eagles defense. But my more main concern was the Eagles offense. Jalen Hurts still needs to prove himself, and he's doing an excellent job so far this year, so keep it up. But they got Houston next week on Thursday, so again, go out and throttle Houston, and we will continue to believe and believe. So I've been very impressed with the Eagles, but what has been interesting is that they have had an explosive offense because they're so good at running the ball. And then with the addition of A.J. Brown coupled with Devontae Smith, they're having these big plays, which is what I like to see, because if you are going to go up against Buffalo and Kansas City, you're going to need to have a couple big plays. And their offense has shown that they can do it, as well as having a consistent run game. So they're one of the more well-rounded teams out of the kind of the top three here. That I would say maybe they're the most well-rounded, but I need to see them do it in the playoffs. That's my only question, because with their remaining schedule at Houston, at Commanders, at Colts, Green Bay, Tennessee. Green Bay and Tennessee will be good. Hopefully Green Bay's turned it around. And then it's the Giants, who they should beat, but the Giants are formidable, which I've been wrong about. And then the Bears and Dallas. So could they win out? Maybe, but I don't know. Eagles look good. The Chiefs, highest scoring offense, they just absolutely waxed the Niners, which people don't really do that often. They had one of the top scoring defenses in the league, and they made them look really, really terrible. Also, with the Chiefs, my concern about them is always the defense, but then again, the defense is a lot better when they play with the lead, because then they can keep guys underneath. Where if you're Kansas City and you can score so quickly and so efficiently, because nobody puts up points like the Chiefs put up points, if you can get your defense to play with the lead and keep guys underneath and make these teams go 8 plays, 10 plays, 12 plays, 14 play drives, and burn clock, which is fine because the Chiefs can score in, 13 seconds. So I think my concern about the Chiefs is the slow starts and the defense. Because if you can get out to a fast start, your defense is going to hold up better, because you can accept losing 4 yards or 5 yards and make teams take it and stay patient to beat you. So with the Chiefs, I would say I have the highest trust factor of them, because I've seen it, and I've seen it in the playoffs versus real competition. So highest trust factor in the Chiefs. I need to see it from the defense, and I want to see them get out to a hotter start. Because while the Raiders did play a great game when they were playing the Raiders, you can't go down like 17-0 or whatever it was. That's not a sustainable way to win. And I know the Chiefs have an all-time great record when down by double digits, so credit to them. But sustainability, get ahead, stay ahead, come out hot. Like, why does it take the Chiefs a quarter to get rolling? I don't know. So I trust the Chiefs. But then here are the Bills. The Bills, I think, are probably the highest upside situation given their combination of offense and defense. Their pass rush has been incredible. They have the highest pressure rate on the lowest blitz rate in the NFL, because their front four are so good they can drop 7 into coverage and give those defenders time to get to the quarterback. So the Bills' defense has looked exceptional, and the Bills' offense has also looked exceptional. Josh Allen is a stud. I don't need to really say it again. Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs are excellent. But my question mark about Buffalo is the clutchness, because lately when we've seen them in the playoffs, it hasn't been... I would like to actually throw aside the 13-second loss to the Chiefs, because they played about as well of a playoff game as you can play, and the game before that too versus the Patriots. But if Buffalo can develop a consistent run game, it's going to make sure that these teams do not come back against them and do not generate anything, because they're going to be wasting the clock. And with those guys on the outside, when you can bring those linebackers and extra guys into the middle to stop the run, then that opens up the pass game, and we know how lethal they can be doing that. Gabe Davis had, I think, 98-yard touchdown the other day, so that's not exactly normal. That's what I would call a big play offense. But the Bills have yet to do it. They have yet to establish a run game and pound the rock and be kind of more of a, not even a run-heavy offense, but even 50-50. Just get some traction in the run game for me. But Singletary has looked bleak, terrible, bad. whatever adjective you want to describe out of that. But the guy I picked up in fantasy and then had dropped, James Cook, the rookie out of Georgia, showed some serious flashes last night. So hopefully he starts getting more carries and more plays, and Buffalo develops that run game that they can trust, because you're going to be playing in cold, bad, windy weather up in Buffalo or Orchard Park. They must have said Orchard Park 100 times on the broadcast last night, so now I know it's at Orchard Park. But I need to see a run game from Buffalo, but at this point it's a little bit nitpicky getting down to these three teams. But overall, I would say I can't. I would like to de facto put the Eagles in the third spot, but that's because I haven't seen it in the playoffs yet, where there's nothing more that the Eagles could have showed me. The only Eagles question mark is, can they do it in the playoffs? I know Buffalo and Kansas City can do it in the playoffs, but but Buffalo and Kansas City have legitimate question marks. So it's really a toss-up between these three. I don't have a definitive answer, but at the end of the day, push comes to shove, I'm picking Kansas City because I trust them and I trust Mahomes. So that is the question of who's the best team in the NFL through 8 weeks. We will find out. Battle of the 3 and 5s or quarterbacks or whatever you want to call it. I am talking about the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Broncos. All of these teams have underachieved. You could sort of, if you want to take ownership over the situation, you can with these three teams. But if you want to put the blame somewhere, with the Bucs, it's been poor offensive line play, inconsistent running game, and injuries all over at wide receiver. If you're the Packers, it's no Devontae Adams, new wide receivers, and the defense hasn't been as good as you think the defense should be or was going to be talked about. And the Broncos, new head coach, new quarterback, trying to get adjusted. However, all three of these teams have looked woefully bad. If I had to kind of choose one of them to have greater success, I would say the Buccaneers. And partly because I love Tom Brady, and I'm not going to hide that. I do love Tom. But also, the Bucs are second in their division, tied with the Saints, who this week actually looked excellent against the Raiders, and they're only one game back of Atlanta, who's 4-4, and Carolina's lurking, which is scary. But the Bucs have looked pretty bad, so the only reason I'm kind of giving it to them is due to their division. The Packers are 3 and 5; they're second in their division, tied with the Bears. So that next game of Bears-Packers will be a big one. But they're 3 games back in Minnesota, and Minnesota has the tiebreak. So there's really no shot that they're going to win that division, because Minnesota's not going to lose a 3-game lead plus a tiebreak, because the Packers have an incredibly difficult schedule, and I think Minnesota will keep rolling. Also, shout out Romeo Doubs. Incredible catch last night on Sunday Night Football versus the Bills in the end zone. Spun around like 3 times, hands up, catches it. So that was excellent. Good to see. And I think it was also a little bit of ad-libbing, which is what Rodgers kind of needs out of his guys. He needs them to feel the situation and understand that when the play breaks down, there's somewhere you should go. And so I think that's a momentum builder for the Packers. And honestly, the Packers, I don't think looked that bad last night, but it's one of these things where you look pretty bad when you're going up against the Buffalo Bills and the buzzsaw. So the Broncos have to be the worst team out of these three. They're 3 and 5 somehow. They're third in the division behind the Chargers and Chiefs. The offense has been a joke, literally a joke. But it's one of these things where when I was watching these games, it's so many self-inflicted mistakes of drops and penalties and guys missing their breaks. And so I'm not hopeful for the Broncos, but this is one of the major storylines of the season, of Russell Wilson kind of coming to Denver and underperforming. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are doing what they're doing. We're going to get to that in a second. But the one thing that gets me at least a little bit hopeful for the Broncos is their defense. Their defense has been exceptional, and if they could get to an acceptable 22 to 25 point a game offense, then they could actually be a real team with that defense. But they'll be lucky to make the playoffs. I mean, just bad. And then it gets into the question of, do you fire Hackett, and what do you do with the new owners, the Waltons from Walmart? And so the Broncos are a mess, and I think Russ is on everybody's nerves, as you could tell with the high knees in the plane while you're trying to sleep. So that counts as annoying. And now let's shift on to the NFC West. NFC West here, who would have thought that this division is going like this? The Cardinals, who start notoriously hot, 3-5. They finally have DeAndre Hopkins back, and I think he has been a very welcome, I guess I would say, addition to the squad. But D-Hop back gives me some hope for them, but I don't know what the fix is for Arizona. Is Kingsbury the guy? Is Kyler the guy? I wouldn't assign Kyler. If there's any of those off the field questions, you're signing this guy to, he is your leader, and you have to trust your leader, where it's like, I will give Herbert or Joe Burrow all of the money. I'll back up the Brinks trucks if they want me to send over a freight boat that has only cash on it. Give it to them. I don't care, because I trust those guys. I don't trust Kyler like that, and I think he's injury prone and he's small, and it actually still impresses me when I watch him how he's able to get some of these balls out. So I don't really trust Arizona, and they've lost to every team that they've played that is good. So that's generally a bad sign that you're a bad team. However, Arizona is playing Seattle this upcoming week. So that will kind of decide Arizona's fate, because if Seahawks win, they're 6-3, and the Cardinals will be 3-6. But if Seahawks lose, they're 5-4, and Cardinals are 4-5, and it's up for grabs. So that will be a big game. But I would like to say, how about them Seattle Seahawks? Because Geno Smith, people wrote him off. He did not write back. I mean, how good is that? That's so funny. So Geno has looked great. He's been great, and there's no caveats. There's no, well, he has an exceptional run game. The run game has been good. Kenneth Walker has looked great out of Michigan State. The rookie popped off for a couple big runs, and the defense is playing fired up football. What the sense I get about Seattle that I don't get with Arizona is a bunch of guys playing for a team. Seattle, everybody's your teammate, and you can feel it and you can see it, and looking at the bench, and they're playing motivated and fired up football, and that's a credit to Pete Carroll. So I would say I was kind of out on the Pete Carroll. I wasn't incredibly pro Pete Carroll, but he's proved me and everybody wrong. And who would have thought that Seattle gets rid of their franchise quarterback for a guy that's historically been a backup and kind of passed around the league. And they're not only significantly better, but then they got all of these other players in exchange, and they don't have to pay him an exorbitant sum of money, so it gives them more roster flexibility. So credit to Seattle, what should have been a rebuilding year. Now they're leading the division with the Niners and the Rams and Arizona. So clap it up for Seattle. Excellent. And I'm rooting for them because they're actually fun to watch, which has generally not been the case with Seattle football over the last year or two, until Russ started just running around and throwing crazy balls downfield. So props to them, and they just beat the Giants. And while I still think the Giants are a little bit frauds, I think they're a solid to pretty good team, but I do not think they're as good as their record, even though you are what your record is. But credit to them, because that's a game they easily could have lost against another tough opponent, and they handled business, and they kind of gave it to them a little bit. So credit to Seattle. And now the Rams, I'm not going to spend too much time on the Rams. They've looked so bad. Outside of Cooper Kupp, they got nothing going on. The defense hasn't been great either, and yeah, it's been ugly. It's been ugly for the Rams. And now Cooper Kupp had an injury at the end of last game. I'm not sure what all the details are on that, but not a good place to be if you're the Rams. And then especially not a good place to be if you're the Rams when the 49ers are your older brother. They're 0-8. The Rams are 0-8 versus the 49ers in the last 8 regular season games. Yes, they won the playoff game, took them to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. Congratulations. But losing 8 straight times in regular season divisional games is bad. Bad. So it's a little bit Belichick to the Jets. I'm still glowing by that Patriots win. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. So yeah, the Rams have looked bad and stale, and yeah, just I can't even begin to diagnose all the problems because there are so many problems. So I'm going to go off of that. They're 3-4. They lost the game to the Niners already, and so praying for the Rams, I guess. I did pick them to win the division, I'm pretty sure. So not loving that one. But now let's go on to the Niners, which outside of Seattle are the real talking point. They just added Christian McCaffrey. So think about kind of the crazy world that we live in. If you would have said 2-3 years ago that, oh yeah, the Niners are going to have one of the best rosters in the league and then add Christian McCaffrey on top of their other crazy weapons. So what he does is kind of what I was talking about a couple episodes ago with Von Miller and the Bills, of when you have Christian McCaffrey, it takes a little less pressure. Like, yeah, if you're a system of pipes, there's pressure because guys need to perform. There's a certain amount of water that needs to flow through. Christian McCaffrey is another outlet valve. And so he takes the pressure off Kittle. He takes the pressure off Debo. He takes it off Ayuk. And I think they also should consider playing CMC as quarterback because he might very well be better than Jimmy Garoppolo because he didn't underthrow Ayuk on that deep ball that he threw a touchdown for last game. So maybe start CMC at quarterback, a little dual threat offense. That could be good. Shanahan could scheme that up. And what I also think is really unique about the Niners roster construction is that they have a lot of guys that you don't know what they are before the snap, in terms of, Devontae Adams is a receiver. And so in Cooper Kupp, he's a receiver. You can play them as such. But with Debo, he also functions as a running back that plays wide receiver. And then with McCaffrey, who's one of the best kind of pass-catching running backs in the league, you have McCaffrey out there that you think he's a running back, but then he could easily go and be a receiver and be a threat. And then you have Ayuk, who is a little bit more of kind of in his lane of receiver, but then you have Kittle, who's an excellent run blocker and also a receiver. So it creates a lot of matchup problems if you line these guys up in kind of, I'm trying to think, almost anonymous spots where they have options of what they're going to do. It's so hard for the defense to figure out how to play them because you don't know what they're going to do, and they're so talented that they can do whatever they want with the coaching. And so it ultimately all comes down to Jimmy Garoppolo, especially with a defense that is pretty solid outside of their performance to the Chiefs. Oof, that was almost a 50 spot on them. Almost a 50 spot. So shout out Chiefs on that one because I like watching Garoppolo lose. Shout out Tom. So yeah, the NFC West is really fascinating. I hope the Seahawks just keep chugging. If they played the Niners, I think I'd choose the Niners, but it's a lot closer game than I think. Yeah, it's just a close game. I think I need to stop putting asterisks on stuff of we're far enough into the season where I can say it's surprising, but now I have to start evaluating. It's surprising compared to the start of the year, but now I have to start evaluating based on what they've actually shown me. So I'll be interested to see how the NFC West plays out. My guess is the Niners will take, I haven't looked at the schedules of the Niners and Seahawks, but my guess is Niners take the 1 seed, Seahawks 2 seed, and then Rams and Cardinals battle it out for 3 and 4. And yeah, that's a wrap. So a little bit shorter today, sub 25 minutes, which is remarkable. So I'll give some claps for that. But I hope you guys like it. Let me know if there are other topics you want me to talk about in these kind of short, like 3-topic podcasts. And I'm not sure when I will come back with another episode, but the season is heating up. So it could be in 2 or 3 weeks, but if not much changes, maybe it's 4. But I think I like the concept of shorter and a little bit more in depth about the topics, because it's nice to not have to rush around in order to make sure I say that Indianapolis gets their airtime now that they have Sam Ehlinger as quarterback and all that stuff. So it's good. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk soon.